Greetings, my friends, and welcome to the rectory for our East Lansing Catholic community. We wanted to take a moment now that we're at the shelter-in-place executive order, and we are truly going to be homebound for the next 3 weeks, to take a few moments and offer a few personal reflections from our home to yours. I definitely wanted to take a moment today and introduce Dcn Mike. We just found out in the diocesan announcements, of course, that Dcn Mike is back from seminary at Sacred Heart Major Seminary in Detroit, and he's in the rectory now with us here at East Lansing, and he's going to be our new associate as of July 1st. But we haven't even ordained him to the priesthood yet, and that, God willing, should be Saturday, June 13th at St. Mary Cathedral, if that plan is still on, but right now we're kind of playing it day by day. So I just ask your patience with all of our plans, and from one day to another, we're sort of playing it by ear, given the situation, and so our prayers are with you, but we certainly wanted to take a moment. If we can't publicly welcome our newest member to the community, we definitely want to take a moment and introduce him a little bit. So I thought maybe just as a first question for Michael is just to say a few words for a moment about your family. He hails from Ann Arbor, St. Francis of Assisi Parish. Do you want to introduce yourself and a little bit about your family so we can get to know you for the folks at home?
Sure, yeah. I'm from Ann Arbor, St. Francis of Assisi, the home parish of Jim Harbaugh. My family is actually Lutheran, so I have a father and mother, who are both Lutheran, and an older sister and a younger brother. And so I entered the church about 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, when I was attending Eastern Michigan in Ypsilanti. And so, fairly standard upbringing in Ann Arbor, middle class, and I don't know, any details?
No, that's good. Well, let's talk a little bit about your vocation story. I mean, that's always a fascinating thing. What moved you, and especially when you're coming from a background, family is Lutheran, and to bring you into the faith, and not only just to bring you into the faith, but to make you want to be a priest. Can you say a few things about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I don't know, at some point, somewhere in high school or college, I stopped going to church, Lutheran church. I don't really know when it happened. I just know I wasn't going at some point. And eventually, things started churning. I can't quite explain it. It's a grace. I started thinking, well, this stuff is important. And so if I believe it at all, I have to take it seriously. So I started going back to church and started reading a little bit more about the faith. And I getting interested in English Catholic writers like Chesterton and Hilaire Belloc and these sorts of guys. And as I was reading, what became clear to me is that the Bible didn't just float down from heaven. And so if you want to say the Bible is the authoritative word of God, you have to have some explanation for how it connects to God.
And who says it's the authoritative word?
How do you know?
Good catch.
And even if it is, how do we know what it says?
Yeah.
And so once I started thinking like that, and it started clicking in my head to start asking those kinds of questions, it became very, very clear to me that the ancient apostolic churches had some story. Jesus founded a church, and we can connect it directly to Jesus. He appointed disciples, who then appointed apostles or bishops as their successors. And once you have that structure, you can understand how the Bible comes together and can be understood as authoritative.
Yeah.
And so once I started thinking like that, it was very, very easy actually to convert. I just started going to St. Francis, the closest church to my house, and entered the church the next Easter Vigil. So that's what brought me into the church.
How do you go a step beyond that to say, I not only want to be a member, but I actually want to serve in the priesthood of Jesus Christ?
Sure, yeah. Eventually, I went and studied philosophy at Northern Illinois. I was getting a master's degree, which is like a pretty worthless degree on its own. You
No offense to all those who are philosophy majors.
No.
You're just realizing it doesn't make a lot of money. Okay. Yes.
You can get you can get something with a philosophy degree if it's a PhD. Okay.
We are in a university community. We're just going to put a little bit of an exemption on that. But anyways.
So if you get an MA, you need to get a PhD, or
Yes,
you need to find some other line of work.
A mid-level degree in philosophy does not perhaps a career make.
Right. So I knew I was getting near the end, or I had a year left.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I didn't find it super rewarding in and of itself.
Sure.
I kind of like, it's kind of a neat hobby, but it wasn't super fulfilling, and a lot of it was technical stuff, not really inspiring. So, what am I going to do? I don't know if I want to take 5 years to get a PhD after this, and then work who knows how long to try to get a job with tenure, which maybe and probably won't even happen. I was like, what am I going to do? So I just started thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? And the priesthood popped into my head, and because I met the basic requirements of being not married and male. And I thought, well, I can do that. That's part of it. But it popped into my head, and I pushed it out because it's, it's theoretically possible, but why me? Why?
No, you need more of a motivation than I fit the eligibility requirements.
Basic. I got my fingers, and so I dismissed that, and I kept thinking, and it just kept coming back into my head, and eventually, over time, and I can't even say I was really praying about it too much.
At first, it's a scary thing. You're right. Yeah, we usually don't ask for this kind of gift.
Yeah, and so it just kept coming, and it became less and less absurd as time went on. And so then I scheduled a meeting with the priest at the Newman Center there at Northern Illinois, Father McMorrow, and
Father Matt McMorrow?
Yeah.
Classmate of mine.
No kidding.
Mundelein Seminary. Long time ago. But
we could talk about that.
Thumbs up to Father Matt. Exactly.
Yeah. And and he helped me a lot. He kind of said, okay, start going to adoration. Volunteer with St. Vincent de Paul Society. Start getting involved in the religious ed. And I started doing that and praying in adoration. And it became, as I say, even more possible and plausible and
even exciting.
Yeah, almost. It took a while, and that's just kind of very, very slowly. And I got to a point, basically doing that and checking in with Father McMorrow, that I kind of thought, this is it. This is all the discerning I can do. I can't be any more.
I got to take the next step. I got to test this.
You have to go to the seminary, and then people know when you enter seminary, you don't really have to know that you're called to be a priest. It's
important
the next
to know.
step.
It's part of the discernment.
The discernment of it. I'll go, and if it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out. And in fact, I remember the first night I was there, I laid in bed and I thought, when is the earliest I can leave this place and still keep my reputation and not embarrass myself? Because
you wanted to give it a try. I was 25
years old, and they're like, well, you have a curfew and you have to wake up at 6 a.m. And, oh my goodness, this is a mistake. But through that, they make you do, go into mass every day, doing a holy hour every day, having spiritual direction every 2 hours, or 2 hours, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, it became just more and more and more plausible, to the point where I thought, this is probable, and the biggest thing in seminary was we did a 30-day silent retreat. And once I got to the end of that, nation style, I thought, I'm as confident as I can be that this is what I'm called to do. You felt the
peace, you felt the the movement of the gifts of the Spirit, or fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah, I felt as close to God as you cannot. This is a really, really rewarding state, and this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do. And so that's kind of...
I like it. That's a good story. No, you're right. We wish it was just a bolt from the heavens, but sometimes it takes years. And I think all of our stories, I mean, it's years, and then years of trying it out, and all the years you spend in seminary it's a slow, arduous process of discerning and testing and growing.